there are expected to be some massive changes coming with the House versus the NCAA settlement. Yes, we're going to have revenue sharing. Yes, we're going to have roster limits. But we're also going to have a CEO primarily charged with enforcement. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football. We talk football year round. If that's something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Are you excited about having a CEO for the College Sports Commission, or what we would otherwise know as what the NCAA does? Because that's coming. This is really an underreported story in as far as I think its impact will be not just on college football, but on college sports altogether. As we have a presidential commission that's being formed, we have a bunch of people with a lot of opinions about what college football should be doing. We have lots of folks that mostly agree that college football in particular is a bit chaotic. Just take a look at college basketball if you think this is chaotic. But you get the point, right? Name, image, and likeness across the board, people feel uncomfortable with because there are no rules. And because there are no rules, people are sued for this, people are sued for that. And if you don't like a rule, you just, attack it in court, which seems to be President Trump's administration as much as anything else. But that's also America's pastime, suing people, right? You don't have what you want, sue somebody about it, which is ridiculous. But that's the way that we've chosen to function. We have an executive branch, we have a judicial branch, we have a legislative branch. When the legislative branch doesn't want to do diddly squat, and the executive branch really can't get the legislative branch to do diddly squat, and the executive branch probably at odds with the mostly Republican or Democratic legislature, depending on who's the presidency right there, or which I should say party won the presidency, then we're going to talk about the judicial branch, which, hey, once and for all, please tell us what is it we can and can't do legally. So we go to these folks in black robes that we pretend are smarter than the rest of us, and we let them make choices for us. Okay, fine. I'm going to do the same damn thing in college football. Hooray. Ugh. Okay, so the new CEO of College Sports Enforcement Organization, this according to Pete Thamel at ESPN, will have final say in doling out punishments and deciding when rules have been violated according to sources, a level of singular power that never existed in the NCAA era, struggling to enforce its rules. Remember, the NCAA has no such thing as subpoena power, right? So you could say, Jim Harbaugh, come before us and talk. And he'd be like, I don't want to talk to you. You can't make me talk to you. And they would give you a slap on the wrist and or suspend you for games. And you go on and you win the 2023 national championship, just like they did. But the CEO is also expected to be hired pretty quickly. And I'll be very curious to find out who it is. I don't think this is going to be a football person. As a matter of fact, I can almost guarantee this is not going to be a football person, because I don't think anybody would be able to agree on who that football person should be. However, it was probably going to be somebody with something like an athletic background in college and something like working around athletics at the college level. Could be someone from any walk. But the thing that I think is most important about this is that this hire is really going to have to go through a very intense and deep process to be this person and to also win the hearts and minds of everybody, believing that you have the interest of the sport at heart. I don't think anybody should want this job. This is about like being mayor of a city. It's a thankless task. It really is. Like you're on the hook for all of it, all the time. Anything that goes wrong is your fault. Things that go right, you get no credit for. You're like the air conditioning, right? When it works, nobody notices it. Or if it's working too well, kind of turn it down, right? And it's like, ooh, don't need all of that. But when the air con ain't working and it's hot outside, everybody knows about it. Everybody's got something to say about it. Football, it's like being an offensive lineman. They don't get stats. They only got a top rusher. They got a top quarterback. They have a top offense. But those things are dependent on them doing their jobs at the highest level, which is why we have the Joe Moore Award to decide which of the offensive line units is the best in the country. And even then, it's an award that's given to a unit. It's not given to one particular player, which is unlike any other position that we have in college football, right? Like we got a Bednarik Award for the best defensive player, Thorpe Award, cornerback, Heisman Trophy, best overall player. Outland, I guess you could say, could go to an offensive lineman. Sometimes it does, but defensive linemen tend to dominate that award. Thinking about what a defensive lineman can do, which is accumulate tackles for loss and sacks, right? Those are numbers we get. We don't really track at the high end what an offensive lineman is going to do. We track perhaps Pro Football Focus's stats and, how good they are against pass rush, given down and distance, whatnot. All this to say, the CEO of the College Sports Commission, especially the first one, is going to have such a hard time to do this. But I think you're going to get people that are more enthusiastic about the job than the person doing the job. They're going to like that this exists. I also think that it's important to note here that the Power 4 conferences are driving this thing. And one of the things that is supposed to happen is you're going to opt into this thing, and you can't sue anybody if you don't like what the commission comes up with, which gives it its teeth, right? You can risk not being a part of your Power conference anymore if you don't want to sign on this thing. That's how seriously they want to take it. Now, the CEO is also expected to report to a board, which is what CEOs do at corporate companies all the time. There have been a number of people that are looking at this job. LBI Software is an accounting firm, and Deloitte have been lined up as, handling salary cap and whatnot like that. I think this is also where the business of college football is probably going to see itself going, especially as we get to these billion-dollar television deals for who and what gets to play college football, who and where. I should say what and where. So the more I think about this, the more I like this as an idea, because it gives us essentially what the NFL has, what the NBA has, what Major League Baseball has. A commissioner, right? Someone who is an arbiter of the game. It's also not the kind of job that I think anybody's supposed to have for 20 or 30 years, but that ain't stopped Paul Tagliabue, and that's not going to stop Roger Goodell, and it didn't stop David Stern. It's not going to stop Adam Silver. Rob Manfred might want to get up out of that job anytime soon, but, there's a reason for why Bud Selig had that job for so long. Point here being, this guy is almost overwhelmingly going to be white collar, almost overwhelmingly going to be a rich person who doesn't stand to benefit financially from the gig, and overwhelmingly needs to be the kind of dude everybody wants to get behind. Somebody like Oliver Luck, for instance, is a name that I would throw out there because I think Oliver Luck basically has a positive approval rating across the board, unless your name is Vince McMahon. Like, outside of that, or it could be a guy like Andrew Luck, who's general manager at Stanford, his son. You're going to have to look for that kind of character. You're going to have to look for that very narrow window of person. And this is what I think is like trying to find a college football coach or offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator at the high level, where there's only a few guys that really foot the bill for getting across with not just fans, but alumni and big-time money donors, presidents, athletic directors, the like. You got to have everybody on board with these hires, and if they don't work, you hear about it quick, fast, and in a hurry. So the CEO will primarily impose fines, penalties, and sanctions that are appropriate. So wouldn't it be nice if we had somebody who could have said last year, hey, dog, enough with the faking the injuries. The next person fakes an injury gets a fine, right? As opposed to needing to go through a process here. Or to say, hey, we're going to limit the transfer portal to just one window here right now. So there are plenty of ways that a CEO can really help the sport move itself along, move college sports along. But the thing that we're also trying to get our heads around is, how do we keep Olympic sports? There is a proposal to make law that you got to have at least 16 if you have a Power 4 conference football team in the FBS. I don't think that's such a bad rule to have. I also think that you're going to have to figure out Title IX with this, but given how this administration has kind of thrown a lawsuit at almost everything and been able to bulldoze its way into what it would like to do next, I think you really got to worry about what's going to happen with Title IX. I have no idea what is going to happen as it relates to how many women's sports you have to satisfy the law. However, we know that if there's money in the sport, people are going to find a way to do it, right? This is why the WNBA has had such a windfall with Caitlin Clark's appearance, with Angel Reese's appearance, and frankly, with them having a supremely talented league. We're also taking a look at this from what Olympic sports matter most to us, like soccer, for instance. The U.S. women's national team, and up until lately, has been pretty immaculate. The men's national team, we want it to be better, but, we don't really watch it like we watch the women's national team because, well, the rest of us, we root for England, Argentina, Brazil, Italy, Spain, somebody we know is going to win the World Cup as opposed to somebody who's going to just be happy to be there like our men are most of the time. But that's down the road. For now, I think it is cool enough that a CEO is going to be in this position. How long it's going to last and how much of a headache it's going to be remains to be seen.